we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country.
United States, where Donald Trump has announced that he will freeze migration from what he called third world countries.
US President Donald Trump has sent shockwaves across the world, especially across Africa, after abruptly announcing that the United States will permanently pause migration from what he described as third world countries, throwing at least 10 African nations and several others across the globe into deep uncertainty. It was the kind of announcement that lands like an earthquake, sudden, dramatic, and guaranteed to dominate global conversation. And of course, the timing was classic. Trump dropping the news on Thanksgiving right when America was supposed to be carving turkeys, not carving up migration policy.
People that enter and remain in our country, for the most part, we don't want them.
But what drove the president to unleash such a sweeping and controversial directive? And why do African nations appear to be bearing the heaviest part of the blow? According to US officials, the dramatic move was triggered by a tragic shooting near the White House that left 2 National Guard members, Specialist Sarah Beckstrom and Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, critically injured. The gunman, Ramanullah Lakanwal, an Afghan national who entered the US through the Biden-era Operation Allies Welcome program, has since become the center of a political firestorm. While some reports suggested he previously worked with US intelligence, Trump brushed that off, saying during his reaction that the suspect had simply snapped. In the aftermath of the attack, as emotions surged and political tensions escalated, the president instructed the US Citizenship and Immigration Services to carry out what was described as a full-scale re-examination of all green cards issued to nationals from countries of concern. And this is where Africa's name rang loud. 10 countries on the continent were placed on that list.
Hundreds of thousands of Somalians are ripping off our country and ripping apart that once great state. Billions of dollars are lost, and gangs of Somalians come from a country that doesn't even have a government, no laws, no water, no military, no nothing, as their representatives in our country preach to us about our Constitution and how our country is no good. We're not going to put up with these kind of assaults on law and order by people who shouldn't even be in our country. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them. America will never bend and never yield in the face of terror.
The African nations immediately affected include Burundi, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Libya, Sierra Leone, Somalia, Sudan, and Togo. Why these countries? US officials vaguely referenced negative country-specific factors, a phrase broad enough to cover everything from political instability to perceived national security risks. But could more African nations be added as the directive expands? It is absolutely possible, especially since Trump has now positioned national security risk as a flexible category that can be widened whenever it suits the administration's strategic or political interests. And Africa is not alone. Other affected countries outside the continent include Afghanistan, Myanmar, Cuba, Haiti, Iran, Laos, Turkmenistan, Venezuela, and Yemen. In other words, the bulk of America's restrictions are now falling on regions historically defined by Western powers as unstable, raising the question, is this truly about security, or is it part of a much broader ideological shift in US migration politics? Another new rules every green card application from these 19 countries will be re-examined, whether it's pending, newly submitted, or somewhere in the pipeline. USCIS officers have now sweeping discretion to slow approvals, deny applications, or demand layers of additional documentation, especially even migrants who have followed every rule to the latter may face indefinite delays or outright rejections. So what happens next for individuals and families already waiting anxiously? Their cases could be frozen for months or years. Students hoping to continue their education in the US may find their dreams abruptly fractured. Skilled workers, especially from Africa's rising digital and tech sectors, could see their opportunities evaporate. Families trying to reunite may remain separated indefinitely. And since Trump also vowed to cut off federal benefits and subsidies for non-citizens, the environment for immigrants currently living in the US is about to become even more hostile. Could this be a signal that a broader crackdown is coming, affecting even African migrants who are already in the United States legally? That possibility can no longer be dismissed. The implications for Africa are far-reaching. The US remains a major destination for skilled African migrants, and the continent depends heavily on diaspora remittances, which power everything from school fees to real estate investments. A migration pause, especially one accompanied by retroactive green card scrutiny, could disrupt economic stability for thousands of African households. It could also reduce Africa's access to global employment, weakening talent mobility, and hardening the stigma around African passports. Is this the beginning of a new era, where African nations must aggressively build alternative migration corridors to Asia, Latin America, or within Africa itself? Some analysts believe so. Others worry that the move will deepen existing inequalities by ensuring that only the wealthiest or most privileged Africans retain mobility options. As expected, Trump's directive has drawn fierce criticism. Immigration lawyers described the announcement as scapegoating. UN officials warned that the US must honor its refugee obligations, and human rights advocates argue that collective punishment of entire nations makes little sense. But on the flip side, Trump's core base has rallied behind him with renewed energy, praising what they see as decisive action to protect American lives and restore order. For them, the shooting incident symbolized everything they fear about migration, and Trump's swift response reinforced his image as a leader who acts first and debates later. The political polarization in the US, already intense, has now been thrust into another boiling cycle.
We will run down every single lead, every piece of evidence.
So, where does this leave Africa? Perhaps at a crossroads. On one hand, the directive is a stark reminder that African nations cannot rely on Western countries to provide long-term pathways for migration opportunity or security. On the other hand, it may serve as a wake-up call, a signal that Africa must strengthen its own institutions, expand its own opportunities, and reduce dependence on external systems that can shift overnight due to politics far beyond our control. Trump's announcement may have been designed as an immigration policy, but its ripple effects could reshape Africa's outlook on mobility, education, investment, and talent for years to come. In the end, the move is as much about what it says to America as what it says to the world. For Africa, it is a moment charged with uncertainty, but also reflection. If the doors are closing elsewhere, is it time for the continent to build bigger doors at home? That question may define the future far more than any proclamation out of Washington. Your perspective matters. What do you make of Trump's latest migration crackdown, set to affect nations across Africa and beyond? Share your thoughts and insights in the comment section below. If you like this video, Be sure to subscribe to the New Africa channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our informative future videos. Stay informed, stay engaged, and thank you for watching.